Well, the Stormpulse story starts about 7 years ago. I was actually working at a company in Chicago as a software developer. And I went to the web in October 2004 because that year 4 hurricanes hit South Florida, Francis, Jean, Ivan, and Charlie. And some of those are pretty devastating, of course. And my family was all in South Florida, but I was in Chicago. And so I went on the internet looking for some kind of amazing weather resource, weather.com, Wonderground, all these places, and even local TV stations, ones that I'd grown up with. And when I went on those sites, I was expecting to find some kind of amazing coverage because by that time the internet had changed everything. This was 2004. Unfortunately, what I found was a lot of content that was made for TV and made for the print publications, newspapers and things, just kind of thrown on the web. And that wasn't good enough for me when I was trying to figure out, how far these hurricanes away from my hometown. So I started creating a database of weather software, and that later became Stormpulse.com. So in 2004, this idea kept brewing in my mind that I need to do something with weather, and I started collecting data anywhere I could find it. So government data sources, started tapping into those, National Weather Service, National Hurricane Center. And rather than having to then go to the Weather Channel on TV and wait for their tropical weather updates, which I had done as a kid, I could just go to stormpulse.com and check out the information and get the latest data. And at that time, nobody else knew about it. It was literally just me and my family that used the site. And so it was just an idea still. But I met my co-founder, Brad, in Chicago. And he was actually my project manager at this company called McMaster Car Supply Company. And while working there, we both worked a lot on how to take a huge amount of information and present it in a very clear way. And they have over 450,000 products at that company. So with that amount of data, there's a lot of challenges, much like weather, in how you get people to the right information quickly. And that was one of the main things that frustrated me about weather sites is that there's information that's there, but it's scattered. It's in 4 or 5 different places or more. And it never felt like I could have one view that really inspired confidence in me to know, what was going on, was my family in jeopardy or not, and that was kind of the genesis of the idea. So we started working together on it in 2005, and then 2006 I left my job at that company in Chicago, moved back down to Florida where my family and friends were, and my partner Brad stayed in Chicago, and we kept working on this remotely. So between 2006 and 2007, we built the first prototype of Stormpulse. And we knew that we weren't going to be satisfied just using Google Maps, which Google Maps didn't actually even exist in late 2004 when I started working on Stormpulse. Yahoo Maps did, MapQuest did, but Google Maps didn't. But even knowing Google Maps it is today, I know we made the right decision to start from scratch. I really think that all the best designed things in this world are created from scratch. When we use software, we get to stand on the shoulders of giants, but when you're using cartography and mapping, it really makes a big difference how you choose to present those maps. And I had grown up in South Florida with hurricane tracking maps on my wall, so I knew what they looked like, I knew what I wanted. And when I was creating a weather site, I knew that I wasn't going to be satisfied just picking up a general purpose mapping tool like Google Maps and trying to use it for hurricanes. So with that passion, we started creating an early prototype and presented it to some folks in 2007. And in 2007, the feedback we got was, this tool looks really interesting, but it's not really for me. And I think part of it was we probably went overboard, showing a lot of different kinds of charts and graphs. And one of the things that got us excited, and me excited especially in the first place, is I'm really into data and really into data design. And so once I got my hands on weather data, and then I also realized I had the power to present it any way I wanted to, it was like fulfilling a childhood fantasy. No longer was it just going to the wall with my dad after a Weather Channel update and drawing these charts in the map, but I could literally create anything I wanted to. So probably was like a kid in a candy store a little too much, and we actually had to spend 2007 to 2008 just paring down a lot of the things that we added to the map. Some of them were just for fun, and so we really tried to make it something that wouldn't scare away the average person. Because that's really who we wanted this appeal to. Stormpulse, I'm not a meteorologist, and Stormpulse wasn't created for meteorologists. It's actually created for average citizen in one of these weather-affected states to get the latest and greatest information. So we spent a full year from 2007 to 2008 just really tailoring the user interface so that a person like me or you could just go on the site and without being intimidated by a bunch of weather jargon. And that was something that we had learned at our last company, was that jargon scares away people. And jargon makes it hard for people to understand everything that they need to understand to make a decision or to feel comfortable with what's going on. And so Stormpulse has always been a jargon-free site, and we want to keep it that way. And when we started showing it to folks in 2008, we got a better reception. And a couple other things happened that were really to our benefit. So in 2008, the company had run out of money. We had a wonderful product, like I said, one that for me was the fulfillment of years of always wanting a better product for weather tracking. But it wasn't something that many people were using. Like I said, we probably had 100 people maybe using the site on a regular basis. And that isn't enough to pay the bills. So we went back to work. I went back to work. My partner actually stayed on and kept working on Stormpulse and the architecture. I went back to work at the Palm Beach Post. And what's great about that is the Palm Beach Post was the 500-pound gorilla, as they say, in the marketplace for weather content. And so for keeping South Florida citizens aware of what's going on in the weather, there's kind of a duel between local TV stations and the Palm Beach Post newspaper. And so I was happy to start working at the Post. I was their first developer in the newsroom. And while there, I had the opportunity to take a look at what they had for hurricane tracking and present a proposal to my managers and say, we could replace what you guys are doing now with the Stormpulse map. What do you think about that? And the reception at first was that, what's it going to cost and how are we going to do this? And we had some prices that we threw out there at first, and we were pretty cash starved as a company, so we were happy to take whatever we could. But unfortunately, even the prices we were talking about weren't going to make the deal happen. So we went back to this drawing board as far as the business model went and said, how are we going to get Stormpulse out there to the masses that we want to serve? And in 2007, we went to California to a place called Startup School, and that's associated with another place called Y Combinator. And basically, you can imagine in Silicon Valley, this is like a mecca for young entrepreneurs to take their ideas and try to make them into something great. And so we went to this mecca, and we had our great idea, and we presented it there. And we heard a man speak by the name of Chris Anderson from Wired Magazine. And that was the year that he launched, or he published his post called The Future of Free. And basically that everything was going to be free in the future, or that the price of things on the web is going to get closer and closer to free. And, so free wasn't something that we had really tried up until that point with the weather map. So we said, okay, Palm Beach Post, you can have it for free. And wouldn't you know it, my managing editor said, that sounds great, free, done. And within a month, we had the map on their website, and we had over 100,000 people then looking at that map for the first time. And so that was really satisfying to know that we had finally broken into a larger audience. But one more thing happened, two more things, really. Number one is that newspaper media sites really like to outdo each other. And so we had the benefit of being on the Palm Beach Post, but then we also had the benefit of their sister publications and competing publications all seeing that and saying, hey, when can we get this? Of course, it was free, so the answer was, you can have it right now. And the only thing we wanted in exchange was a link below the map that said, powered by hurricane tracking from stormpulse.com. And that little link at the bottom of the map actually powered our Google search engine ranking all the way to the top of the charts. So we became the #1 search result for hurricane tracking and storm tracking in that summertime period there in 2008. And of course, summer 2008 was also monumental hurricane season. So we had Hurricane Gustav, and then of course, very memorable Hurricane Ike making landfall in Houston. And so I have a chart that shows the traffic that was hitting our site from early 2008, actually sometime in the spring, to the summertime peak of 2008 when Hurricane Ike made landfall. And that traffic went from about 100 visitors per day to about 1,000 visitors per day, to when Hurricane Ike made landfall, we had over 1.1 million unique visitors come to the website in a single day. So when we weren't busy trying to keep our servers running, and my partner had made the great decision to run our services in the cloud, which in 2008 was still fairly new, Amazon hosting. When we weren't trying to keep our servers up, and I'm proud to say we never went down during that period, we were kind of looking at this traffic and just gawking at it, saying, we finally got millions of citizens to take a look at this map. And we were getting emails from people saying that NASA's looking at this, Lloyd's of London is looking at this.